Hello everyone, Chris here, and today I'm gonna take you way back to the past. So last night when I went to bed, as always when all you wanna do is fall asleep, my brain started working overdrive. And I asked myself this following question. What was the first game you ever played? At first I was like, brain? How in the name of God am I supposed to remember that? But then I started thinking, and there's no way for me to say with certainty that that was the first game I ever played, but by thinking about it, I have a few games that I think might be actually the one. Now, we are going way back in the past now, and I don't really have any footage of my computer or my room, so here is some embarrassing footage of me at a school play instead. I'm going to take a guess that I was about 8 years old when I first got my first diskette with a computer game on it. For those who don't know, diskettes, also called floppy disks, was a type of disk storage that you could use to save or transfer files with, and at my time, if I remember correctly, one diskette could hold 1.2 or 1.44 megabytes of data. In the years to come, I remember we had to use like 7 or 8 floppy disks to install games like Warcraft to our computers. Good times. Now, I do remember that we got our first computer set up in the living room in our house, but I'm not sure if I actually played any games on it. Now, I do know for a fact that it didn't have any games built into it, because it didn't have anything built into it. It was MS-DOS. Now, MS-DOS was a text-based disk operating system, which didn't really have anything pre-installed, if I remember correctly. But fast forward a bit, and I vaguely remember that my family got a new computer, and I could have the old one set up in my room. Now, this probably was around 1995, because the new computer had the Windows 95 operating system. And it was in this room that I played my very first game ever. That I'm sure of. But the biggest question is, where and how did you get your hands on games back then? To be honest, I can't remember. Like, I have played so many games where I have no idea how they got into my possession, and that applies all the way through the 90s as well. There are so many games that I can remember playing, but I have no clue on how I even got my hands on them. Now, I do remember that my friend's mom did help me out with figuring out MS-DOS and teaching me the commands, because you had to do a lot of commands to make MS-DOS work back in the days. And I'm pretty sure that the first game I ever played came from her. That means that it was one of the games that me and my friend used to play together when I visited him. And that narrows it down to just a few games that I can clearly remember that me and my friend used to play a lot together when I visited him. The Adventures of Captain Comic. Now, this takes me back. This game was written by one man, Michael Denio, and published as shareware in 1988. In this game, you control Captain Comic in search of treasures. Me and my friend used to play this a lot, but we never completed it, as it turned out to be a pretty difficult game for two young boys. And for some strange reason, I remember this game made me feel a bit uneasy, and I don't really know why. It could be the lack of music, or it could be the dark void of space in the background, just waiting to suck you in as one little crack in your helmet and the void takes you. And yes, space terrifies me. Captain Comic was a pretty standard platformer, where you move from left to right or right to left and shoot enemies on your way. Nothing more, nothing less. But its colorful graphics and smooth controls made it a really fun game to play. And it might have been the first game I ever played. but we have a few more games to consider. Secret Agent The Hunt for Red Rock Rover, or as we just called it back in the days, Red Agent for some reason, was made by Apogee Software and released in 1992. If this was not the first game I played, it was for sure the game I played the most back then. The game starts with a world map where you can choose which level you want to play, and your mission in all of them is always the same. You need to collect a diskette to access a computer to turn off a laser grid. You need to find the antenna and destroy it, then find a dynamite to destroy the exit gates and escape. On the way, you meet different enemies, and you collect keys to open up different areas, and some power-ups to help you traverse the levels. The level layouts for all the levels are distinct from each other, and they're all really fun and well made. This is overall just a really good game. No wonder why we played it so much. Though I'm still not sure we ever completed it. I do remember we got to one of those final levels of the game, but I can't recall if we actually made it or not. But to be honest, this is a game I would probably recommend you checking out today as well. Me and my friend were both members of a chess club around this time, and when we realized there was a chess game where the pieces fought each other when you defeat them, that blew our minds. Battle Chess was developed and released by Interplay Entertainment for the Amiga in 1988, then later ported to a number of other systems in 1991. I remember how exciting it was to see how the different pieces fought each other, and we were not disappointed. Now, there is one more game that is a contender for the first game ever played, and there is a reason I remember this one. This was how it looked when I played it back then, because I didn't understand anything of what I was supposed to be doing or what's even happening. Now, North and South was a strategy action game released by Infogrames in 1989. So it acts like a board game, sort of like a Risk, and when you land on a space with an enemy soldier on it, you go into battle mode. You only control 1 out of 3 units at a time, and your goal is to eliminate the enemy and win the state, I guess. And you can also retreat as well. I don't know. So we limited down to 4 games that could potentially be the very first game I have ever played. Now, most likely it is one of these 4 games. I just can't say with certainty which one of them it was. But now I'm really curious to what your first game was. Do you remember the first game you ever played? It is difficult indeed, but on the way, you might discover some games that you have long forgotten about, and you can limit it down to some potential candidates like I just did. I am really curious though, so if you remember, please comment down below of what was the first game that you ever played. And until next time, cheerio!